Yeah, good evening, viewers out there. Good morning and good afternoon from wherever you are watching us. We are glad to be here on this platform again this wonderful Friday to discuss about our nation, Nigeria. This is Opinion Sharer, your regular platform that will discuss national, global, and regional issues. So this afternoon we have eminent individuals on the platform to discuss about Nigeria once again. And of course, we'll be discussing about Asaba Declaration and the quest for restructuring Nigeria. This afternoon, we have Mr. Oluwadele Bolutife joining us all the way from Canada. And we have Mr. Benedict Baidu joining us from UK. And we still have two other guests that will be joining us anytime from now. Of course, the conversation today revolves around the quest for better Nigeria. Almost every day, now and then, we for us at home, our radio houses, television houses have, discuss issues of Nigeria, how we can get better by the day. But the quest for better Nigeria took another dimension on the 11th of May 2021 when the southern governors met in Asaba, that's the Delta State capital, to actually discuss about Nigeria. And of course, we may agree that the demand is what has been the plight of the citizens. The governors meeting perhaps for the very first time, if I may be correct, to discuss issues of such magnitude was such a very critical one. And on that same day, several issues were discussed, not only about the issues of grazing, open grazing, but of course, the quest to better restructure Nigeria so that all the dividends of democracy. And similarly, the governors placed certain demand to the government at the federal level. And if you recall as well, the government of the day campaigned on one of the mantra was to restructure Nigeria. And this is becoming somewhat late, perhaps, if I may be correct, depending on how we are seeing it, because the administration is running out of time, and very unfortunately, that Nigeria is yet to be restructured. The southern governors comprising of three regions, the southwest, the south-south, and the southeast, met to discuss about all of these topical issues. And back home here, the issue continued to generate a whole lot of reactions, arguments, counter reactions, just because everybody wants opinion to be heard, just as the name of the platform implies. However, the discussion this afternoon is still centered on the same matter. We have people that will be glad to shield the discussion very vigorously and, of course, to better inform the public on why it is very important to restructure Nigeria. Now, without wasting much of our time, it is very important that we know that this platform is meant to educate the minds of the public and, of course, to give room for people to share their opinion as regards the betterment of our nation, Nigeria. Now, my question goes to Mr. Bolutife, the village boy, as we popularly call him. Sir, what do you make of the demands from the governors at a time like this?
Thank you very much, Michael. What the governor said can be firmly placed under the now once used doctrine of necessity. As a component, part of the country, and as how you may call primary stakeholders in the governance of our nation, I don't see anything unusual in the demands of the governors. Why do I say so? It is not rocket science to know that our federation is more in the name than in reality. We have a skewed federal system, and that's how long a person can endure oppression and subjugation in his own land. So the reactions of the governor is more about like echoing what the people within those regions have been saying for a long time. I think it's because of though on the other hand, some have said because the agitation for secession seems to be getting to a boiling point, and the governors can no longer pretend, they can no longer continue to act like Ignero. I don't know whether you know the history of Ignero, who went to be playing flute when Rome was burning. So it was high time for them to respond, and I've gone through the communique. All they said, they are, if you want to be unless you want to be economical with the truth, all they said are genuine issues that require addressing. Again, though what they said at individual level, as each governor can go to a state and issue an executive order to kind of actualize some of these issues, which is still within the purview of the Constitution. Again, though, I also see here there's a constitutional bootstrap along the way, because most of the issues in Nigeria are under exclusive list, and the list on those on concurrent list, the federal government seems to have an overall control. That if there's a conflict between what the state is doing and what the federal government is doing, the federal government seems to keep precedence. These are the issues in the Constitution that we have to also address. So basically what I see, the importance, one thing that is most important for me in what the governor did at Asaba is a call for dialogue. It is a call for, to have meaningful conversation going forward. It's not about whether you like it or you don't like it. What they are saying, there are issues that are relevant that we should discuss. I believe that I just pray that the government will have the courage, at the federal level, another component of the country will have the courage to come to the table. It is high time we gathered at the table to discuss these issues. These issues cannot be swept under the carpet. They are the reality of the people of the South, people sleeping with only one eye closed. So there are issues that can be addressed, that should be addressed. But the issue do not have the strength of law, if it must be very sincere to ourselves. It doesn't have that ability, the capability of enforcement as it is now. But if the issue is not allowed to die a premature death, the issue is able to galvanize us to a new dawn if we handle it diligently as we ought to. Thank you.
Michael, are you there?
Yeah, thank you so much for opening the conversation. Yeah, Nigeria was trying to happen, but we are back again. Yeah, you have laid a very solid foundation for this discussion, and I would love to come to Mr. Ishowo Olarewaju. Now, you have argued over and over on this subject matter, and for the governors to be demanding for restructuring Nigeria at a time like this, there have been a whole lot of comments across the social media spaces and, of course, on our radio stations, that the governors themselves are impediments to the quest for restructuring Nigeria, in the sense that what they are doing to local government administrations in their respective states, perhaps I doubt if anyone is not concerned on this, and what they are doing to the judiciary, most especially at the time that judiciary, they are on indefinite strike. Sir, would you agree would you agree that the governors, though making demands from the federal government, they are equally impediment to restructuring Nigeria, putting into consideration what they are doing to local government administration and, of course, the judiciary at the subnational level? You have the floor.
Good evening to the guests out there. I want to say that the question you put before me is very, very pertinent at this point in time. Nigeria is ours, and it's our collective responsibility to put it into the right perspective. But I will rather, put the two issues into context. Both the federal government and the state governments are culpable in relating to what is happening to the country. If you could remember, this administration promised us prior to 2019 or 2015 general election that restructuring was part of the card they sold to Nigeria. And we so believe at that point in time that this administration is likely to move our country from the then current mess. But unfortunately, when people gave them the mandate, we elected them through the fingerprints. They received the mandate but failed to actualize the promises, the campaign promises they made to us, which part of it is restructuring. Unfortunately, prior to second time, when President Muhammadu Buhari was looking for the second time, mandate, it constituted another committee headed by El-Rufai. This confirmed that the administration really know how popular the word restructuring is. Unfortunately for them, El-Rufai and others made the recommendation, and up to this moment, the recommendation was put onto the carpet, just like how 2014 convert was still in the dustbin. But however, when you look at the old things, in the first phase, I said that both the state governments or the state governors and the federal government are culpable simply because two wrongs never make it right. And that is why I will try to highlight their own area of fault in category. When you look at what the federal government did, just like I told you, what actually led to Asaba conversation was a result of the sleeping mode of the government at the center. People, we read it in the daily news. The ugly barbecue of the Nigeria on the streets, especially from the south, on allegation made against their brothers in the north. Unfortunately, Mr. President has not in any way demonstrated to be the president of the country, rather a president of his son. No wonder when he appeared in certain interview that he cannot guarantee infrastructure for a specific country where he got 97% of vote to where he got 5%. This is what is actually trending up to this moment. So that is on the side of the federal government. On the state governments, I want to say that none of them has actually justified the mandate given to them. We are putting the context of what Constitution says. In the Constitution, section 121, subsection 3, talks about the financial autonomy for both judiciary at the state level and at the legislative at the state level. This is clearly stated in the Constitution. The same Constitution, I think section 21 sub 1, talks about presenting, annual budgets. Hello? Hello? Are you with me? So, in essence, they always favor the section or always go with the section that favor them by presenting the annual budget before their respective House of Assembly. But they forgot that the same section of 21 sub 3 talks about the independence of the same legislative arm and the executive arm. Up to this moment, the judiciary has been on strike for almost 5 weeks, and I've not seen any of the governors, especially the one leading them, the governor of Sokoto State, one time the Speaker of House of Representatives, a lawyer for that matter, and you see his brother too, Lalong, who happened to be a one-time speaker, at the same time a lawyer. Why they have not advised their friends in the other states that they need to go by the Constitution? This is the provision that clearly stated, and that is why I commended the Delta State government who has taken the bull by the horn, because I read it almost 48 hours ago that he has signed already to approve the independence, financial autonomy for the judiciary and the legislative arm, I expected those that are lawyers among them to have respected the Constitution, which clearly stated that these people are entitled legally to be financially autonomous. But unfortunately, the situation both at the center, because President Buhari refused to divulge the power. The power must be dissolved in line with the campaign promises made. But up to this moment, they still hold the center where 68 items is being on the exclusive list, where just only 12 is on the concurrent. No federalism across the world position itself like that. We're happy in this country. And that is why the problem is from the top downward. If the governor now gathered together, saying that they have resolved that country or Nigerian federalism must be restructured in line with our culture, the question we ask them is that how many of them have actually allowed the local government to be independent on their own? We have 3 tiers of government: center, which is federal government; state, which are the middle, and the local government. But unfortunately, most of these governors, they are taking the local government as their mere baby, and that is why they become a mere feeder bottle up to this point. Even in my own state here, we have not conducted local government election in the last 2 years. What kind of attitude is that? It is undemocratic, and that is why we are being championing the cause that they must allow the local government to survive. It is only when local government is survived that the government will be more closer. Good governance will be more closer to the people at the grassroots. I pray for God why the local government was established. The Act of 1963 that established local government is to bring it towards to the people's door. Unfortunately, when you now see governor commissions projects that are expected to be commissioned by the local government, but because they have the control of the local government, that is why they are now moving, lay claim on mere interlock, 100-meter interlock. A governor will commission that. How you expect Ishowala to be commending such governor? No, return power to the local government. Let the chairman understand why people elected them. It is there. We are going to hold each local government responsible. Should they fail to do the needful?
Thank you so much. Thank you, Mr. Olariwaju. You have spoken beautifully. Now, I want to go to Benedict while we are waiting for Michael to rejoin. I think he's having some network issues. Okay. So I'm going to ask Mr. Benedict his opinion regarding the resolutions or declarations of the governors from the South, especially regarding restructuring. And if you listen to Olariwaju, he expressly mentioned the fact that this government, this administration, came in, on the back of the promise of restructuring. What happened? Let's have your view, please.
Thank you very much to other guests in the studio. In fact, all your contributions are very worthy. But let me first of all say this. The truth of the matter is, we have not been able to distinguish the difference between politics and governance in Nigeria. Even though our present democratic dispensation is over 20 years now, but we have not been able to distinguish when it is time for politics and when it is time for governance. And in most cases, politicians or the leaders make statements in order to appeal to the sentiment of the people at that particular period of time. And especially when we are getting closer towards elections, because one thing I have observed with our democracy system is a governor who is working towards second time will do as much as he can to appeal to the sentiment of the people that will give him way to go for second time. A governor who is almost done with his second time will be making statement to appeal to the sentiment of the people, probably to people way for him, either to the Senate or for whatsoever reason. For instance, the Asaba Declaration. The Asaba Declaration, to me, I consider it, especially on the open grazing. I believe that is another political statement in order to appeal to the sentiment of the people. Yes, it is true. As a matter of fact, if I want to take you back about the history of the Fulani herdsmen and their problem in Nigeria, the region I come from perhaps is one of the most region in Nigeria that is known with series of crises, inter-ethnic Fulani herdsmen. I am from the southern Kaduna side. So at least I knew that I grown up, most of the thing I find out around my area was some of this conflict that was ongoing on between the Fulani herdsmen with our people, and then so many other issues, ethnic crisis, religion, and the rest of them. But let me tell you this, the herdsmen crisis you see today is as old as Nigeria himself. It's just that it gets to a level where we can no longer contain it anymore. So something needs to be done. It is true that even the birds in the sky are shouting Fulani herdsmen. The damage they are causing to our economy, the loss of life, which is manpower, cannot be measured in any way. But let me just tell you, this same Fulani you see, far back as 2000, when I was living with my elder brother who raised me in Bauchi, who is a military man, that was the very first time Nigeria army started fighting Fulani men. At that point, they were within the Gombe axis, and they were coming around the Chad and then Niger. Virtually most of the farmers in Yamatutoba, Jangangale, local government in Gombe state, they couldn't go to farm. But by then, they had men, they used to call them Hudawa. But the weapon they were using at that material period of time was machete. But even at that, that was the first time Fulani headmen killed a soldier man on operation. That was far back as 2000, 2001. That was what necessitated the then governor of Gombe State, named Ashidu, now requested the 33 Artillery Brigade from Bauchi down to Gombe, where they are at present. So it has been a long issue all this while. It's just that it has gotten to a level where we can no longer bear it. The governors that made the statement on the bounding of the open grass, they knew that that is not the right way to communicate a very meaningful policy decision. But I believe it's just one of those statements, just like what Eradwaju said, they lack the capacity to implement it. And with that statement they make, it's a declaration that, okay, they are bound. Now you now come to the table at the federal and say, okay, let us discuss. Because the Fulani herdsmen issue has 3 dimensions, and we need to understand this. One, there is religion connotation. Almost 90% of all the herders you ever know, most of them are Muslims. So of course, when you talk about herdsmen, most of the reaction from the other part of the country does not appeal to those who belongs to the same religion. I am not saying all Muslim, please, but that is the reality. And then 2, it has cultural dimension. What is the cultural dimension? It's a way of life. Culture, they said, is a way of life by simple definition. So it's all about man himself. When you talk about a man culture, it's not just about the economic, it's about their hobby, it's about their wealth, it's about their way of life, it's about their wealth, it's about their economic, it's embedded in their culture, which is part of moving from one place to another. And then 3 dimension is the political undertone that the matter is carrying. And what is the political undertone? It is true that the Fulani herdsmen are harassing everybody virtually everywhere. But I expected, in fact, the Asaba declaration is not the first forum, or is not the first declaration of open banning of Fulani herdsmen from moving from one place to another. I think Ekiti State Governor started, Fayeshe started it. But the difference between Fayeshe and that of the Asaba declaration that did not raise too much noise was because I understand there was an engagement with the headmen in Ekiti State. If I am wrong, I think Michael will be in position to correct me. There was an engagement, even though it wasn't palatable for them. But I think they were made to understand that, look, your kind of business or your kind of livelihood in this 21st century can never sustain you. And there is no way it can be allowed to continue. Due to what? Due to human development, due to limited land, you can't be moving anywhere. As in the time when some of those Fulani routes were created, I understand they were mainly in the north, far back as in the 50s. By then, how was Nigeria population then? And how was the development of Nigeria? So they need to be reoriented so that they will understand that it cannot be done. But when politicians just come up on the air and then make a declaration whom they knew very well that they lack the capacity to implement without proper engagement, what they end up doing is they only tear the water of politics, and then it becomes an issue. I was listening to the Attorney General of the Federation on his AI, on the channel television interview. He was now relating Fulani issue with spare part. Doesn't. In fact, let me just admit, with all sincerity, I think the North is growing in maturity in reacting to some certain political issue. If it were the North that you know them in the early 2000s, by mere mention of that statement, you will see many talks going in the street, either in Kano, in Kaduna, in Bauchi, anywhere, harassing those innocent traders and then even killing them. That was the culture. But this time around, it looked like maybe they are improving. They are not really acting in the manner they are acting. So I believe that the state governors, they knew quite all right, the right place this kind of serious policy issue can be made. They have appealed to our sentiment. Now they have raised us. Now a lot of issues are being discussed, so many things, and then they are now giving it different interpretation. Let us see how they will make progress. Just like what the right just said, they lack the capacity. It is constitutional. I heard some of them said, okay, they give you freedom to move. They didn't give you freedom to move with your cattle. When a man moves, he moves with his well. To the Fulani man, that is his well. That is his life. That is all he depends on. And then there are also the difference between the Fulani men that live with us and the foreign Fulani men that come in. To be honest with you, the one that live with us, we know them by their name in our community. As a matter of fact, the name Bedu you see in my name is not my language name. It's a Fulani man that gave my grandfather that name. That to tell you how we coexist with these Fulani people. You also know some of them that live in your area. But because we have a mix of a lot of them flowing in from different parts of the African continent, wherever they are coming from, yes, they are causing a lot of menace and then a lot of loss of life and then so many issues. But I believe the governors need to know when serious policy issues such as this we began with. Not just after you rise from a meeting and then you make a statement, you have appealed to the sentiment of the people. Everybody is okay. We are happy. There was nothing new in the issue of banding the Fulani headsmen. As a matter of fact, the federal government failed earlier on by their policy of trying to establish ranches all over the country. The way the federal government go about it is almost the same, like the way the Asaba declaration also go about their decision. The federal government go about it trying to make it look as if it's a compulsory to everybody to create ranches. And we all know the media hula baloo that came out of that process. And that kills that policy. The ranches, we are behaving as if ranches is for Fulani men. Around you, and then some of you that has also traveled out, I can tell you the truth. How many cows do we have in Nigeria as a whole? How many? How many cows do we have as a whole in Nigeria? But you come to where in the Western country, these are heavy economic sector. They are not for Fulani people. We have thousands and millions of youth that are unemployed. And we are talking as if those things cannot impact in our economy. The milk, the most cheapest thing I know here in the UK is milk. The most cheapest thing I know here in the UK also is meat. Where are they getting? But you hardly see a cow anywhere until you drive outside the territory. You see them in ranches. Now, concerning the issue of the restructuring. So to be honest with you, the whole idea about restructuring, at time when I sat down and reasoned, I said, well, perhaps if there is no oil in Nigeria, maybe we wouldn't even be talking about restructuring, including the governors, those that are against and those that are in support. If there is no oil, perhaps you won't hear people shouting, let us restructure, let's control our resources. Perhaps if there is no oil, others will not even oppose it. They will just give it go ahead and say, okay, let everybody go his way. Now, my brother, the last speaker just said something that is very, very germane. Governance is at the lock.
Let me come back to you. Let me come back to you. I think Michael is still struggling. Michael is supposed to be our host, but it's obvious that he's struggling with network issues. So he'll be joining us. And, so I'm going to ask one of the other guests a related question based on a follow-up from where Benedict, some of the things that Benedict actually said. Earlier, he said the governance was just, appealing to the sentiments of the people. And I agree with him 100%. But now, is it wrong? Is it wrong, whether politically or for whatever reason it is it wrong for the governors to be appealing to the yearnings of the people, because if we recognize it as this is what people want, is it too difficult, whether for political reason or for whatever reason? You know, in Nigeria, it's only in Nigeria when people say politics that people are playing politics, we see it as something bad. What is bad? But politics is politics. Politics is how is how people negotiate what they need in developed countries and other countries. You know, so I'm asking this to Mr. Abolu Tife, and then maybe Ishowo also can answer the same.
Well, thank you very much. Benedict spoke very nicely. Political rhetorics is part of the game. We may like or we may not like it. Even during or after campaign, political rhetoric is part of democracy. You know, the good you are speaking, the more you are able to appeal to the sentiment of people. Remember, when Trump came with his "Make America Great Again," even though he was wearing a cap that was made in China, so he was still able to galvanize support. That is the nature of politics. But I don't want us to throw the bath water and the baby together. We can still separate the fact from the fallacy. So what are the issues? Yes, like Benedict talked about, farmers admin clashes has been ongoing. I can attest to that because I happen to also have sojourned for some time in another part of the country. But was it at this level of escalation? The fact is no. Okay. We also are aware that there is desert encroachment up north, which makes grazing to be becoming more difficult for the herdsmen. Now, should the whole country be held to ransom because of that? Are there alternatives to this roaming about of herdsmen? Especially for crying out loud, we're in the 21st century. We are not in 19th century. I mean, without sentiment, the idea of open grazing is not only crude, it is even counterproductive. It doesn't even make economic sense because taking those animals through long distances make them less effective and tiring. And of course, we know what is happening in this other part is like majority of the people livelihood had been hampered by this. People can't go to their farms. They are scared. And those who go, even people like, if it is just an ordinary farmer, my quotation has always been, if it is just an ordinary farmer on the street that has been making noise, we might say, okay, they are playing politics. Chief Olufalai was once a secretary to the federal government. That is a very visible individual. He was a banker, and he narrated with almost tears how the herdsmen dealt with his farm, and they even threatened to kill him. So if you are not going to believe if you say the other farmers don't have voices, what about Olufalai? How about the other guy, the other doctor that came from Germany to establish a farm, and he went to the Seriki Fulani to complain what they did to his farm, and he was tied to the stake and killed, and nothing happened. And the family still had to pay money to before they could release his dead body. So these are facts on the ground. These are facts we cannot gloss over. So whether the government of course, in the Southwest, for instance, the people have been very angry with the government. They have been accusing them of complicity, which I also agree with them. If they have that little courage to even speak about it, I think it is one step forward. Like I said earlier in my opening speech, do they have those communique? Does it have the communique itself? Does it have power of enforcement? The answer is no. But for me, the take away from the process I look at, this should trigger dialogue, serious dialogue. We cannot continue. We cannot pretend that this thing does not exist, and we cannot pretend that this thing will just go away. It will not go away if you don't address it. Whether the country has oil or no oil doesn't matter. You see, at a time, restructuring is not only about resources. There is oppression. I'm happy that Benedict says he's from Southern Kaduna or Gobi, wherever he's from. If you understand the history of the North very well, there's a lot of subjugation. Why did we even fight colonialism? We fought because there was oppression. People felt oppressed. There is oppression in Nigeria. Some segment of the country are being oppressed, and it is the impunity of the oppression is becoming unbearable. Many of us had to run away from the country because we were denied opportunities that we should be ordinarily entitled to. You are quoting the Attorney General of the Federation. It's supposed to be Attorney General of the Federation. It's that we don't know whether it's now the Attorney General of the Fulanis. His statement doesn't even look like someone that is educated, and he's supposed to be a son, senior advocate of Nigeria, which is the highest honor bestowed to a very cerebral lawyer. If he can open his mouth and be comparing herdsmen with spare part dealer, it is very unfortunate that we have elevated mediocrity in the country. These are many issues. The truth is that what they did in Asaba, either it is rhetoric or not, is a good starting point. And think we should respond, we should come to the table, we should talk. Because the only option is for people on the street to carry arms. Because remember, 1939, it was women in Aba that came and said, look, we are not going to accept this. When the colonial master appointed warrant chiefs, we saw what happened at Ensa last year, though it was quelled, but I bet you it may still come up. So if you are going to resist peaceful dialogue, which I think Asaba Declaration has created a ground and avenue for, if you are not going to allow that, the other alternative will not be palatable. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much. Mr. Francis, are you there? I think you're out of the show, right? Okay. Without wasting much time, I would love to pose this question to Mr. Isho. Yeah. I hope I'm audible enough, please.
Yes.
All right. Yes, the Southern governors are perceived to be anti-federal at this moment in their demands. The perception is drawn from the reaction of Ahmed Lawan, that's the Senate president, and of course, we have seen that of the Speaker of the House of Reps, that's Honorable Femi Bajabiamila, and just like Mr. Bolutife said, that of the Attorney General of the Federation, who are key actors in the national politics. What do you make of that perception, and of course, the reaction of the federal government to the issue of Asaba Declaration at this time?
Sincerely speaking, I wasn't surprised when I saw the reactions from the actors, because I quite know that since our attainment of independence in 1960, Nigeria is yet to attain nationhood. You can only judge people's comments right from where they are coming from. When you make a comment, people will quickly trace it to where you are coming from, what type of religion are you worshiping, What type of tribe are you coming from? That has been the basis. And that is why you see how volatile the country is. If at this level, the actors at that point, at that level, are making comments in line with their tribe, in line with their sentiment. Imagine the Attorney General, for that matter, even Aisha has just diploma in law. And I understand what is called freedom of movement. I know what trespass is all about. I know the implication of entry on somebody's place, get it destroyed. The comparative analysis made by the Attorney General, so pedestrian, common like paracetamol, that people will question why a legal face of administration, some for that matter, making this kind of comparison, simply because you want to make a statement that will trigger the anger, perhaps from the north, to send away people that are selling spare parts in the north. These people shows that they are not sincere about the oneness of Nigeria. Bennett made certain comparative analysis when he made mention of what is the number of the cows we are having in the country. Yes, I agree with him, especially when you look at how it has been managed in Netherlands, how it has been managed in Argentina, how it has been managed in Botswana. This is a country that have multiple forms of the cows, yet there is nothing like movement. That movement, just like how the big brother said it over there, that is only in Nigeria you will see that, and it doesn't make any economic sense. The strength, the nutrient is already out of the cow we are eating. Those countries in Holland, those countries even in England, my friend testified that one of the things that are very cheap is milk. Is it cheap in our country here? You know how much a tin of milk is today. What is the essence of having the numbers of cows moving from one place to another that cannot serve us the importance? So I want to say that after the resolution of the southern governors, one thing is very unique that I want our people to look into is their collective resolution. Anambra State is being controlled by ABGA. We have APC governors, we have PDP governors, and they put the sentiment of party affiliation away. See that the primary responsibility of government is to protect lives and property of the people. As we quoted in section, I think 14, subsection 2 of the 19th Constitution amended. If their primary responsibility is to protect lives and property, and we see the kind of engagement, especially from the governor of Benue State and presidency, over a time, he has been making a lot of complaints, how his people have been killed, how they have turned the place to be the orgy of barbecue. And we cannot see, or I didn't see any, prompt response from the federal. And that is why the governor from the south, for the first time, unanimously agreed that open grazing needs to be stopped. Why are we complaining of open grazing? Isn't the only open grazing issue they discussed there? They discussed about the oneness of the country, that it is not negotiable, which means the interest of the governor is not to separate the country, but rather to put federal government on the toes that the federal government has not done the needful. At times when you see comments from the government, one will wonder why. That these are the people that taught a lot of journalists in the country. What exactly have they learned? What exactly our leaders are learning? Mr. President is in France today. It's not about making jamboree or movements to one country or the other. No, it's not about the summit. But what exactly are they learning from the countries over there? He has been to UK, he has been to US, he has been to Holland. What policy, if it is on agri alone, Mr. President imported that policy and this is how we go about it. That should be meaningful rather than going with entourage, having a circle. At the end of the day, there won't be any meaningful outcome as a result of that. So I want to say that that meeting they had in Delta State is a way to go. At least it will put federal government on toes that it is no longer the same. And that will appease the people they are leading, that truly their responsibility is to protect the lives and property of the people. To my surprise, the governor of Ondo State, that happened to be the APC governor, is now the spokesman, which means is away from the party coloration. And you could remember before now, the same governor has taken up the matter, sending people, the herdsmen, to leave the foreign reserve. At the time he said that, you saw the reaction for the federal government that it doesn't have the power. But thanks to the lawyers, they have said more light on it, that this is the position. How could you say the freedom of movement encompasses, the movement of the cow from one place to the other? It's not in any way related. One can move as the citizen, even our movement has its limitation. We can't enter to another person's property, not alone get it destroyed.
Yeah, Mr. Show,
Michael,
thank you so much. Thank you. We know you are actually trying. We understand your passion, and we know you want to discuss very well. Well, we may not be able to end this conversation today, but before we go, I would love to ask. I think we still don't have Mr. Francis there. Now, to Mr. Baidu, how easy, or better still, let me put it this way, how easy do you think the demand for restructured Nigeria could be, putting into consideration, because there has been allegation and counter allegations that some people are profiteering from the misfortune of Nigeria? How easy do you think Nigeria could be restructured?
Yeah, Michael, there is nothing that is impossible. It's all about engaging. What I mean by engaging is how policy issues are being discussed. That is the process of making policy. In most time in our own society, we tend to neglect the ordinary people. We feel everything that make up a better country has to come from the top. No, policy at times can begin from the local government up down to the federal. It can also begin from the federal down to the local level. It all depends on how policy stakeholders engage the people. Now, restructuring Nigeria, to me, is not a big deal. It's all about what? It's all about, just like what you said concerning the issue of the NSAS. No one ever imagined that there will be a moment where people will come out virtually in every street in Nigeria the way they did during the NSAS. Time will come where if there is no genuine conversation among Nigerians, I'm not just talking about political stakeholders, although they are the key factors, they are the key individuals that will determine what will happen at the end of every discussion. But it might begin a little, just like the way it started with the NSAS. It will start one day, but before you know what is happening, it will get to a level whereby, just like what we said, the environment will be too hot for everyone, and everybody will be forced to sit down at the table, and then we look at the issue. But two, it's it won't be easy for Nigeria to be restructured on a platter of gold. I don't see that at all. Just because of the sentiment and then the perceptions of I don't know the right word to use. Just because of the kind of the political atmosphere we are having now. Every issue raised, as I said earlier on, no matter how genuine and germane it is, it's been given political interpretation. And anything at that level, just like what you said, yes, it is true that politics is part of democracy, but you have to understand the peculiarity of your environment. There is level of growth even in the politics. As we are now in Nigeria, our politics is still growing. But then we need to understand also that there is need for genuine restructuring. And for me, it's not even at the federal. It's not even at the state. Let us start, it's not even at the federal. I think for me, where we need more restructuring is at the state level. At the state level, down to the local level. Because that is where the people are. How many people are in the state capital? Very few. So, if we begin restructuring from the local level, I can assure you, those who are in position to press on for the restructuring at the federal level, they will have the stamina and energy and proof and evidence that, look, restructuring is what we need in this country. Just like what somebody said earlier on, the governors that are calling for restructuring, how many of them that has ever in any way carried out a local government election in a fair and free manner? How many of them that has ever allowed any of the local government in their local area to participate in his own local administration and discharge his responsibility. Now, even I can even see, to me, it's not even about, okay, let us restructure. They have the order. Why is it that when it is time for their election, they have the means to do what they want to do? Let us look at during the COVID-19 lockdown. Some of them take their stand and then decide whatever will happen in their state. What happened? Did the federal stop anybody? Not at all. Let us look at the issue of some of the security outfit that they are now establishing, because part of the thing they always call on, let us restructure, let there be state police. The name must not necessarily be police. In Kano State, the HBAR has been existing as long as I can remember. They are operating, arresting people, assisting the government doing what they are doing. Now we have a Motoku in the youth, in the West, who are operating. All they need to do is train those security outfits, even if they don't bear name police, as we want it to be. Empower them to provide basic security at the local level. Let us begin from there. They have the means to do what they need to do. But just that they are selfish. Mark my word, among those who are calling for restructuring, any of them eventually become the president of Nigeria tomorrow, the person will never speak like that language. That is why I call it political statement, is because they will say it, but they don't mean it.
Yeah, thank you for that submission. I think it's getting hotter and hotter. Mr. Francis, I think you are very stable now. And because when we have listened to several arguments here locally, and one of the things that the governors could do, as said by some of the public affairs here back home, is that the governors should lobby their parliamentarians, that is the senators from their respective states, and of course the members of House of Representatives, for them to actually champion the cause, to push for the position of the southern governors at the parliament. Mr. Francis, now the question is to you. Reading the body language of the leadership of the National Assembly, the senators and House of Reps, it seems there's a strong synergy between the body languages with that of the executive. Then, if I may ask you, do you think there can be a very serious, or perhaps a very meaningful conversation at the parliament from the senators and members of House of Representatives across the state? I don't think we have him here again. Maybe the village boy will help us have the question.
Well, thank you so very much. That seems, I don't know, the guy seems to be back. Do you still want me to continue?
Yes, please go ahead, of course.
Okay, let me quickly respond to Bernadette before I answer this question. When we talk about restructuring, I think many of us are making mistakes about this restructuring. You cannot restructure at the state. You can't start restructuring at the state. What is the issue? When you have exclusive list of 38 or more, and you have only concurrent list of 12, and the rule and the law says, even out of this concurrent list, if there is a clash between the state and the federal government take precedence. You can't restructure. You can't build a house from the third floor. You have to build a house from the foundation. Up to 1966, we were practicing federal system. In 1966, with just one constitution, we may call like Aguiyi Rosy Constitution, the unitary system was entrenched until we dismantled that foundation that was laid in 1966. No state, no federal government can restructure. Remember, around 2000, Lagos State created local governments. And because of that, the federal government ceased its allocation till 2004 or 2003. It was when Yaradua came back that he released those money. So you cannot restructure practically from the state. There's no way it can happen. So, yes, why is the state government becoming overbearing on the local government? They are learning from their big brother. They are learning from the federal government. Since they have to go to Abuja with cap in hands to beg for money, So they come back and also become a warlord in their state. They are learning from the state governors are learning from the president. They are learning from the big brother. So that is the reality. We must not mix up issues. There is no sentiment about that. Restructuring cannot begin from the state. It has to begin from the federal government. So having said that, the body language of the National Assembly, it is unfortunate if it is more in synchronization with that of the executive. But the executive here, you are talking of federal government. Because when you talk about executive branch, we also have them at state and local government level. This National Assembly is more like, if you permit me, I want to be as charitable as I can. It's more like errand boys. The federal government does like this, and they just say, okay, what do you want us to do? Say, how do you want us to jump? From which floor? 7 or 20 floor. And then we jump into the water without minding whether there is shark or crocodile in it. We don't have a people National Assembly. If you want me to, I want to be very nice. The current National Assembly is not the people National Assembly, and therefore lobbying them. When you talk of lobbying Nigeria, it's about money. Except the state government will give them good money, very good money. Then perhaps something may happen. And the money the state government will give them means that when you give them that money, education will suffer, healthcare will suffer, every other thing will suffer. So it's not going to be their money. It's going to still be of course, they will use worker salary if you want them to lobby. They don't lobby in Nigeria, they bribe. Let us not use language that is not correct on this platform. So I don't see, even from the initial uninformed comments by Lawan, the so-called Senate president, I don't see how he can channel a reasonable discussion on issue like this. Neither we know so many motions that they've killed. These motions that or bills that speak the concern of the people, it doesn't even go to the second reading. So I don't see how they can. What I think will happen is, like I said earlier on, for this the communique, this so-called declaration, to trigger a meaningful national discussion. In fact, it should be. It should not be at the governmental level. It should be at civil society level to champion a meaningful discussion. Or we go on the buried 2004 dialogue report. Let us bring it out. Let us exhume wherever it is. Let us dust it up and fine tune it. So if Nigeria is not restructured, the truth is that the Nigeria state is actually the country is nearing collapse. The moment you hold on to this oppressive structure, the faster it will collapse. So the National Assembly, for me as an individual, this current one, is it Night Assembly? They are mere errand boys. I'm sorry for the use of that language. Pardon me. I don't mean to be insulting. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much. Of course, we are all trying to be mindful of the language we use to actually describe people. And thank you so much, Village Boy, for that very powerful submission. Mr. Francis, can you hear me now? You may maybe try to unmute your mic so that we're sure that you are hearing us. Oh, I'm not sure. So I will still direct this question to Mr. Esho. Perhaps you were in one of the conversations we had with Professor Eusa Osagai, the former Vice Chancellor of Igbinedo University, and he made a very instance of the Kingdom of KwaZulu-Natal, one of the provinces in South Africa, challenging the power at the center in South Africa, in the sense that, okay, KwaZulu-Natal came up with the hosting of flag. They actually designed their own anthem, and the government at the center was challenging them that you don't have the constitutional right to actually have an anthem or to host your flag. And this led to a very heated conversation that KwaZulu-Natal went to court, the then head of the province, went to court, challenged the central government in South Africa, and of course, KwaZulu-Natal won at the end of the day. On the issue of Southern Governor's Declaration, the Asaba Declaration, do you see that happening, owing to the fact that the Ondo State Governor, Akeredolu, already challenged the Attorney General of the Federation, who is the custodian of the law in the country, to let them meet in court? Do you see that happening? And of course, do you still see the state making headway?
Yes, I think we need to move a bit from our usual, talk in the sense that the argument on ground has to do with political development in the country. The village man or village boy made mention of Bola Tinubu case when he created additional local government, and Obasanjo then said he didn't have the power to do that. He went to court, and courts, pronounced in favor of Bola Tinubu that the additional local government will not be included among the 774 local governments already established, and there won't be any extra resources coming from the center to the state to finance the additional. Any other thing, any state is capable, or any state deemed fit to create additional local government, such state to go ahead. That is why Oyo State has killed, or Osun State has killed. At any point in time, we have judgment from Supreme Court. It always navigates people to have their own way. In this conversation, the governor of Ondo State has challenged the federal government that rather than making a kind of cheap comparative analysis, they should approach court on their decision taking, which I believe they have the right to do so, to ensure that anything that can make their respective states to be governable, they can go about it. If federal government deem feel that they don't have the constitutional power, then federal government should approach court. That is the essence of having judiciary. And if there is any misunderstanding or there is need to have a constitutional interpretation, that is the responsibility of the judiciary. For me, I want to see the federal government, go ahead to approach court and seek for the interpretation that do this governor have the power, to ban the open grazing or not. I like that. But more importantly, I want to say that restructuring, just like one of my guests or my colleagues over there ascertained, it must come from the center. And the political will need to be demonstrated from the center, because I have highlighted that in the Nigeria Constitution, 68 items exclusively reserved at the FG, only 12 at the state. Even the local government will only have residual. What exactly is being controlled by the local government? I don't see it. And people is talking from UK, village board talking from Canada, from US, we are making a lot of comparative. But even in South Africa, you mentioned, states has the control, is an integral part that cannot be just pushed aside, just like how it is on table with the state. At the same time, local governments have their own peculiar or their residual law that are very strong to be upheld. But in Nigeria context, we only have government at the center tend to override the other two arms of government, other two tiers of government, notwithstanding that states too is killing the local government. Hardly could you see or accept any governor that has not did his hand in the local government post. They will not come up that they are doing certain role for the local government. Why are you doing this for them? Allow the people to elect their respective local government chairmen so that we'll have the cause to challenge them at any point in time. We have questions for them. This has been the conversation on. I believe personally that the decision in Asaba is a way to go. And I want to see the government contest their resolution.
Thank you.
I want to then communicate the result on.
Thank you so much. It has been a very hot conversation, I must say, and we need to round up. actually give a very concluding statement. Of course, I would love to start with Mr. Benedict. In just 30 seconds, could you just give your concluding statement on the issue around Asaba Declaration and, of course, the quest for restructuring Nigeria?
Sorry, every agitation. A man said, if a young man stand up tomorrow and said he wants to have his mother as his wife, said it's not enough reason for the father to carry gun and kill him. But rather the young man should be called to order and then explain to him the reason why he cannot have his mother. So every form of agitation at all, especially in the context of Nigeria, required adequate discussion. The issue of the Asaba Declaration is a very strong signal to the entire situation, the political arrangement in Nigeria. If the federal government feels they want to show they want to be adamant, or they want to show the lackadaisical attitude, just like any other issue, I don't think it will go away easily as this other issue that has been discussed that the federal government did not give attention to it. So I hope that those at the top, regardless of their feeling, regardless of their interest, we see the need to look at these issues and then examine them and then discuss them and see how they can help our present situation. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much, Mr. Ben. Mr. Ishowo, you have the floor. Just 30 seconds, your concluding statement.
Yes, I just want to remind our leaders out there that it's all about social contract as being postulated by John Locke, that we will register our allegiance and they are there to protect our lives and property. We have done the needful for our own side as the electorate. We have elected them and we have succumbed to be under their authority. But the government at all levels, they have not done the needful in the area of protecting the lives and property of the people, which is the expectation of the masses from them. I would rather charge them to rise to the occasion and ensure that every life of the Nigerians worth protecting, our property too must be protected.
Thank you. Thank you so much. That was a very powerful one. And of course, to the village boy, let us have your concluding statement on the show.
Well, thank you so very much. I would have also loved to add Paul's opinion on this. One has been inactive. I think you should give him at least a few minutes to speak. Asaba Declaration is a right trigger in the right direction. It's even coming too late, but it's better to be late than never. And the only option, like I said, is now to allow people outside the government to take their destiny into their hands. And that is not going to be a viable alternative. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much. And I must sincerely thank every one of us who have joined this conversation. Particularly, let my appreciation goes to the man behind the scene, that's Mr. Paul, who has managed our activity for today. And of course, to Mr. Ishowo Abdulateef, joining us all the way from Ilorin, Kwara State, Nigeria. And to my friend, Mr. Benedict, joining us from the United Kingdom. And to Mr. Oluwadele.
Okay, I think
Nigeria happened to him. Paul, can we hear your own opinion? Nigeria happened to Michael several times today.
Yeah.
Thanks for the opportunity, Michael.
Yeah, thank you for the opportunity, Michael.
Yeah,
so let us listen to Paul for a few minutes before we call it a day.
Okay. See, I was going to say a few things. It's like being the goalkeeper, which means I have been able to listen to all the opinions, and I make a few notes here. And my notes is brief. Let me quickly go into it. The first thing I wrote down is regarding the AG statement. And I stand to be corrected. I think the AG statement is, AGF rather. AGF is actually speaking on the language of the North. And people who know me, you might understand the fact that I'd like not to be biased. Okay, I don't like to be biased. I want to be as plain as possible, and I like my opinion to be heard. But I strongly feel like the Malami has spoken on behalf of the North. Okay. Now another thing that I've noted is also the fact that there's this rhetoric. There's this rhetoric that restructuring does not have to start with the federal government. It's just a rhetoric that is being sold out by the people by Buhari's people, and they are selling it to people who are following them. And I'm sure, I'm certain, because I'm a regular user of the Twitter. So, and I see some of these things. These are rhetoric that are impossible. Restructuring is impossible in Nigeria without the express support of the northern cabals. I have seen a live video where you see professors, PhD holders, medical doctors are gathered in Abu University, one of the most referred university in the North, and they are saying categorically that the North can never support restructuring. So all the while, when Buhari was campaigning and saying they are going to restructure, I'm not surprised that they are not saying anything about it, especially at the second term that he is in now. It is all a lie, and they know it. Now, another thing that I think maybe I'm going to be rounding up with this one is the fact that the North or Nigeria is deliberately, limiting and militating against the Igbo people. And it is very, very wrong. All right, it is very, very wrong. They are doing it even to their face, and that's why the person of the Attorney General of the whole federation can be comparing the Igbo business with that of the banning of open grazing in Nigeria. They are doing it to their face, letting them know that we don't want the Igbo people, and you are not even hiding it. When you Google terrorism in Nigeria, you see that it is center, the northeast is at the center of it. Yet you are sending army to the north, to the east, to go and be bombing them and go and be doing all this kind of things. It is wrong, and I think it is high time that people of our age, people of our generation, regardless of where you come from, because it's only a matter of time before it reaches your backyard. This is just a few things that I think I have noted. Why I owe the goalpost. Thank you for the opportunity to be able to speak my opinion.
I think the last match that Liverpool had, they were almost losing on the goal until the goalkeeper scored. So maybe you acted like the goalkeeper today, the Liverpool goalkeeper. So he scored the winning goal in their last match.
Okay, thank you guys. We are very happy to host you on Opinion Share, and we hope that we'll be having you soon again. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Michael, you want to say something else before? I think Michael is not really with us. All right, guys. Thank you.
Yeah, bye-bye. Yeah, bye-bye.